Okay, let me just recap on last week's, what we covered last week. So the general theme of what we're trying to do these weeks is about happiness. And it's some of it's based on research, and a lot of it's based on what Guru says. But I'm just going to go over this slide here about happy people that we covered last week. That happy people have a full and active social life and spend time and effort with their friends and family. They're grateful for what they have in life and say so. They're generous with their help to others. They have a positive outlook. They enjoy the present moment and savor life's pleasures. They exercise at least weekly and often daily. They hold to their goals and ambitions, and they have strength and coping skills when they face difficulties, tragedies and adversity. So this is like, so from a worldly research point of view. When we talk some of these terms, their interpretation is different when we talk about Sikhi. So for instance, when we talk about social life, worldly social life is different from what Guruji calls social life. When we talk about goals and ambitions, then worldly goals and ambitions are different from what the Guru says about spiritual our goals and ambitions and different things in there. But the concepts are interesting. And when the first week when we talked about being grateful, so hopefully we've started being more grateful about all the things that we've got. We haven't spoken about being generous and things. That's another topic we're going to cover. But certainly around exercise and holding to your goals and ambitions and those kind of things. When we start losing all that focus about what we're doing, that's when things start going a bit off course in our lives. And when we summarised why generally, what's this if you summarised unhappiness, what is it? Unhappiness is trying to or desiring something that you can't have or you haven't got. That's what causes unhappiness. So when we balance ourselves out, understand all the things that we have got, sometimes the things that we really want so badly are so small, they don't, when you get them or don't get them or not, they don't really bother you that much. Whereas if your focus is all on that thing and you forget about all the great things you've got already, then you become this kind of selfish type of person, and that selfishness becomes destructive. And so the reason why I'm covering this kind of topic is because the people, when we're talking, even when we talk to Sangha generally, people they do Amrit at a young age perhaps. They move on and they find that those days are great, then they get married and thing, and then their life comes about and they're just saying, oh gosh, I hate my life, it's this, that, the other. But sometimes it's just a focus, sometimes there are real issues, and that balance, again, those things differentiated, that's important. And I'll cover some of those as we go along. But last week we were talking about stubbornness. So Guruji even says, if we're hard-hearted, you won't find God. That's Guruji's simple. This shabd, I'm not going to cover it again, but Kod karam kare hon tare, saram pave sagle bir thare, anak tapasya kare ahankar nark surg fir. But when Guruji says, anak jatan kar atam nahi dravai, har dargah ko kaise kave. Guruji says, you make all sorts of efforts, but your mind and soul isn't softened by your efforts. He says you won't find a place in God's court after when we go from here, if that softness hasn't come about. So we're pretty hard-hearted. Generally, I mean, there's many aspects to that, and we could cover them. But in terms of, like, for instance, the way we speak, the way we conduct ourselves, when we talk about if God is going to do something or not in our life, how our life's going, that blaming kind of thing. There's all sorts of things you can add up. And what we covered particularly in this lesson was around ego and what that actually does. And ego is the most destructive aspect of our personalities, of our person, of our body, of our human being. The ego is the worst thing. And unfortunately what Guru's talking about is we're acting in that all the time. And that's the thing that has to be destroyed for us to achieve this thing that Guru's talking about. Otherwise, we won't experience it. Now, I'm going to cover that more this week, about how that fits into a bigger picture. But this is what we covered when a person had £20,000 saw someone with £40,000, there's all sorts of things that happen. The £20,000, we feel it's ours, I earned it, what's God got to do with this? I'm this, that represents me, gives me a status, and it's a bounded kind of thing, it's not an infinite thing. And everything we do in Sikhi is about infinite. When we talk about God, God is infinite. When we talk about His creation, Naam, what Naam is, it's infinite. So Naam and ego, that's why Guruji says that both of those are mutually exclusive. You can't have God and you can't have ego at the same time. It's impossible for you to have both of them. So when we talk about this ego thing, and that £20,000 we use as an example, if there's a £40,000 person, we start showing a lot of respect to them, and we say we look up to them, we do all sorts of things. When we see a £10,000 person, we want that kind of respect from them, we want all sorts of things, that we slander them, we think of them as nothing. And that's where all this caste system and social systems and all these kind of things have come about from. They're just these kind of things. But that was just one aspect of it. It could be anything. It could be external looks, it could be your social class, it could be material things, and it could be just stubborn-mindedness. Our perception of ourselves about who we think we are compared to who we think that other person is. And that ego thing is a huge block. This was the interesting part about the ego states. So we go from parent to adult to child, and that interaction between parent, adult, child. So if you've got two people, what we discussed was we're switching our ego switching states all the time. So sometimes we become this parent, we talk down to people. Sometimes we become this child and allow people to talk down to us, or we talk up to them. But what we're trying to do is establish an adult to adult relationship all the time. And when we talked about certain examples, so the parent to child, if one person's trying to go talk downwards and the other person doesn't want that, it's trying to say, no, let's do it at adult to adult, because the line's crossing, clashes happen. And that happens in our, when we talked about our marriage relationships, it happens in our friend relationships, it happens in, and it went to the extent that the wars and all that started between countries because of these kind of things. And I'm not going to cover it in detail now because we did it in quite detail last week, but I think there's a recording of it. But then Bhai Gurdashi talked about this stubborn-mindedness. He says, effectively, we're so stubborn, we don't realise it's almost like the worst thing you could do to someone in the olden days was to take their turban off. That was to humiliate them. Even in the Western countries, it was to shave someone's hair off, shave someone's head off. That was the worst thing you could do to someone, because they'd have to walk out like that. Bhai Gurdashi, he's saying about, effectively, we've already had that done to us because of our stubbornness. God's gone away from us. He's a distance from us. We don't even realise that, and we've had our, in effect, humiliation done to ourselves. We've done it to ourselves. And he goes, but we don't even realise that. And he gave some examples about the animal world, and we covered a sharp there by Guruji about how Guruji was talking to a Muslim sheikh, saying that your cruel nature, you don't fear God, and with that cruel nature, he said you're never going to find God. So the message around hard-heartedness in Sikhi is very clear. Stubborn-mindedness is driven by ego. If we do not remove our ego, we will be reborn. That's a concept in Sikhi, that Janam Maranda Gir, Marna, Jina, Marna, that carries on because of ego. And our ego transforms into the three states we spoke about. The destroyer of ego is the Guru's word and Shabd. If we stay in the Shabd, it has a more magical effect. If we're staying in what Guru's saying, our thing goes away. That's what Guru says, Satguru ki seva safal hai, je ko kare chit laye, man chindiya fal pavana, home vicho jai. Because if we're doing Guru seva all the time, chit lake, and this is the topic this week about chit as well, chit lake, if we're doing seva, that means we're putting our emotion into that. He says, even anything you even think about, now the whole world's, when we talk about these small desires, Guruji is saying, if you think about something for a split second, while you're doing his service, you get that straight away. If your home, if your ego has been subsided. So the Guru adds a new dimension to those three states. He calls it humility, where shouldn't be any ego, and it is closely linked with gratitude and true happiness and those concepts that we've been talking about. And the Guru Sharan or shelter is linked to how grateful you are. That was something from the previous week anyway. Now this is a topic I've done before, but I think it's important that we introduce this at this stage, just so that everyone's understanding of it is the same. Now, when we talk about ego and all that kind of thing, ego is a complex subject. It's not just as straightforward as ego is I, and then that's it. We don't really understand how that I comes in and how we're doing, why we're doing, how it's operating inside of us. Now, this lecture was called Think About It, making your mind focus on the truth. And the shabd here is do ape mukht karaye da ek nimk kadi kar khayal, because you liberate those who think of you even for an instant. Now, when we do our day-to-day thing, generally, I mean, if we look back on your day-to-day, look back on your day from the minute you woke up to now, even when you're going to go to sleep, how much of that time are we spending thinking about God, for instance? And what you'll find is we get so engrossed in all of these other things, it's not that much. So the areas that we were covering in this were the purpose, why it is, meet your mind, sections of the mind, some examples of what the mind does, the action from various levels of the mind. Then there's a slide there that's quite scary. How do I change my mind? Speeding up the changing. How do we change? And understanding issues you face and conclusions. So I'm going to I'll go through it relatively quickly, but if we go through. Was supposed to come right. So when we talk about mind, the mind splits into 4 sections. We've got man, and sometimes the mind is called man in Bani, by the way, but when Guru's talking about it, someone's talking about all 4 of the sections. But man, the one section of it is man. That's the thing that our thoughts are going on about, and they're interacting with the body. That's at the high level. Then we've got this thing called Chith. Now these terms are important though, understand these terms, man, Chith, and the next 2 as well, because when you're listening to Gurbani, they come a lot. The different things come a lot. I mean, I just mentioned when we were talking about man chindiya phal pavana, je ko kare chit lai, where Guruji said je ko kare chit lai. If you do service of Waheguru with your Chith, you need to understand what that is now, when we say Chith. So, the man is these thoughts, and the thing that's interacting is kind of controlling your hands, eyes and stuff, but you've got a deeper level than that, and that's called your Chith. And that Chith is your things, main part of it is your memory, and that memory is, we've got memory inside of here that you can go to your previous lives as well, and most people don't. Might not even believe that in other, but in Sikhi you can actually, when we're concentrating on Sikhi and we start doing Simran and stuff, you can actually go to see what actually happened in previous lives too. And this Chith that's the second part, it's a lower level, but that's got a second part to it. It's kind of the feelings part. So not only is it memory, it's also now. Everyone who's Punjabi here, when you might hear your parents or you might say it yourself, when someone says to you, shall we do this? You say, Chith nahi karda. Don't we say, Chith nahi karda? But we don't think about what that means. When we say Chith nahi karda, that means Chith nahi karda means my feet don't feel like doing it. And that's what Chith is, memory and also that feeling as well. So we'll cover that in a bit more detail in a bit. Then we've got this other thing called Buddhi. So this was just being a bit cheeky, I was using cheeky images there, but you know that the man, because it's like a monkey, there's a monkey there, but the because it's memory, elephants, they say elephants never forget. So it's just like little pointers so that we remember something. The Buddhi, this is a little wise person. So your wisdom is actually deeper than everything else. So you've got this deep layer about your wisdom. And sometimes when we think about something, it's not just your thought that's doing it, there's this wisdom that's driving it. There's you've got something stored really deep. And that you need, so that wisdom is saying, it's got all your knowledge and all your wisdom, and that's the thing that's saying, I'm really clever. And it thinks it's got something, some different level of understanding. And then when we talked about ego and stubborn-mindedness, that actually comes from the lower part. This lowest part is the home, and that sits as a fourth layer underneath, and that's this me thing. That's the thing that says, I exist, God maybe or maybe doesn't exist. That's coming right from that lowest level. That's that me. That's what Guruji is saying, we have to destroy that level. Now I'm going to just go through these in... Did you know, I mean, this was just a point that most Sikhs don't know that their mind breaks down into four levels, but Bani talks about those four things all the time. I want to show you some of the Bani later. So, if you put all four of those things together, sometimes they're all called man as well. So when you hear man, it's not just about thoughts in Bani. Sometimes when Guruji talks about man, he's talking about all four of those together. When Guruji says, man aise harsyon preet kar, jaisi machli neer, he's talking about all of them, saying, put pyar into them, put love into them. But if you put all four of those together, they're often called man as well together. So just slightly confusing sometimes, but it's usually man is about the high level of the mind. Now I'm going to just describe all four of those quickly. So man, if we look at that, it is described as fickle or chanchal. In Bani we say man chanchala chatarai kinana paya. We read it every day, but chanchalya, it's got a lot of monkey behavior. It's got a very it's running around, it's fast, it's like you can't control it. It cannot sit still and remains on the move. And even when you're sleeping, I mean, we all know this, right? When you're sleeping, these thoughts are still carrying on. And they might, it's according to the sleep thing, it might stop for a bit, but the thoughts are carrying on. And they even form these visions and dreams that you're having. And it likes to think. And the metaphor is that it's a rider, is this man, and the chariot, so it's a charioteer, and it's driving these, your body organs. So think of it like that, that's the thing that's driving them. So sometimes when we say someone grabbed something, picked it up, they picked it up, the hand didn't go off and do that by itself, right? So something's driving it to do that. And when we say we're looking at something, or I didn't mean to look in that way, when we say stuff like that, well, there's something driving it to do that, and that's that man, that's that top layer that's controlling your body. So it's quite happy. The problem with it is because it's so fickle that sometimes it lets the body control it. So some of the body's just carrying on, and it's just absorbing things, and it's not even driving it. So sometimes it's a bit kind of daisy, if you like, and that we're in a daisy state sometimes when we're in the day. It's because our mind is not under control. So this is what the Guru says. This is where man comes in. Bani says, "Jini naam te aaya, ek man ek chith se asthir jag rahya." Guru says, those who meditate on the name with this man, and also with that chith that we're talking about, with feeling. So if you put, when we're trying to do simran, when you're trying to listen to kirtan, you're trying to do all those things, you're trying to stop your mind. You're not just coming to the hopefully, we're not just coming to the Gurdwara to say, right, I do 1 hour at the Gurdwara every Sunday, and then that's my bit, I've done my bit. Hopefully we're not doing that, Hopefully what we are doing is, when we're sitting, we're trying to listen. Even now, you might be listening, or your concentration might be running away. This Guruji said, if you do your simran like that, with feeling and with focus of that man, so that it's not thinking, oh, I need to go and see this, I need to hear this, it's just listening to the simran. He says that person is a person who will remain forever. In other words, they won't go through a rebirth cycle. So man ka kahya man sa kare, eh man pun paap uchre, maya mad mate tripatana ave, tripat mukta man sacha pave. So the human acts according to the wishes of the mind. We're so much under control by this thing that the mind feeds on virtue and vice, and it's intoxicated with this thing called Maya. Now Maya is that thing that makes you forget God. So it could be anything. It's anything external in the world. And satisfaction and liberation come only to those whose mind is pleasing to the true Lord. So, you know, this mind we're talking about running about and all that, there is, in Sikhi, in Bani, what Guruji is saying is that God has to be pleased with your mind. Now, that's a good thing for us to think about. If we were talking and exposing our mind to God, which is exposed to Him anyway, but I'm just saying if we think about it like that, would He be pleased? Is He pleased with what's going on in our thoughts? Now, the second section, the Chith, it's a storehouse of all your memories of your life and all your previous ones as well. And it extends the mind further to enhance concentration. So when Guruji talked in that shabd, he goes, if you do man and Chith, in other words, mind and feelings together, if you put those two together, then it actually makes another thing called, in Bani we call it surti, but that's single focus concentration when you put those two things together. So it's stubborn like an elephant to get it to do something it does not want to do. So when we turn around and say, when I was using that example, chitani karda, if you're trying to make it do something and it doesn't want to do it, it's very difficult for it to do. And that stubborn-mindedness we were talking about last week is driven by this chit. So it's got two states, some general states. One is when it's down, and one is when it's interested. So there's non-interest and when there is interest. Now, give an example. If I put a television screen here, and I put your favourite program on, it'd be like, it's going to go into on state. If I put something boring on, or you're finding what I'm saying boring, you'll go to off state, and you'll just start going into some thought. Oh, I've got to do some shopping tomorrow, or something like that. That's how it's controlled. Guruji is saying you have to control that when you're doing your Simran, Kirtan, Naam Japana, when you're doing your Sangat even. You have to control that thing that's going on and off. Say, bored, not bored, bored, not bored. You have to go, stop it saying bored, get it into it. Ochitya, that thing. And then that becomes a firm memory in your mind as well. And when we talked about happiness before, a happy person is someone who, when they think back, and I'm hoping everyone, when they think back over the last few months or whatever, can pull off happy memories quite quickly when we were talking about that. That's all stored here. So if we're sitting on a life and say, oh, I hate my life, right, then this is where it's gone wrong. It says memories inside of there, they're pretty messed up. So this is what the Guru says about Chith. So, manre shabad taro chitalai. He says, if you the chitala ke shabad nu padunge na, or we do kirtan, or we do anything, or when we're reading it, or we're trying to understand it, and we love it, put feeling into it, he goes, then you get saved. Paire Ram kaho chitalai. Guruji says, when you're doing Simran, chitala ke Simran karo. We don't do Simran like, if we just sit here, if we just go Waheguru, 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 and then your mind starts going, right, yeah, whatever, Waheguru, it's something else, then Chit isn't in it. So Guru is saying, Paire Ram kaho chitlaaye, and kahe Nanak is Srir Parvan hua jin Satguru Syon chitlaya. Now we read that every day in Namsa, which kahe Nanak is Srir Parvan hua. So when we say, is this body accepted by God? Is what we're doing with our body acceptable to God? Guru is saying it's only going to be acceptable if chit laga hoye Vaheguru vich. Satguru de vich, or the Guru, you're really into, you're putting feeling into him all the time. So jinke chit kathor hai, se vehe na Satguru paas, uthe sach vartada kudeyara chit udas. Now here's the opposite one. Guruji is saying, if your chit, when we talk about stubborn-mindedness, this is a stubborn thing, it becomes like a stone. Guruji is saying, whoever's chit is like a patthar, like a stone, because they don't like to sit next to Guruji. Uthe sach vartada, unada man udas ho janda, their chit goes udas. Now that's so Guruji's used chit there twice. He said, if it's like a stone, if you can't put feeling into something, into when it's Guruji's time in your life, when it's time to give something to Guruji, if you can't put feeling into that, Guruji says, oh, patthar vangu chitte unada. Because they don't like sitting in the Guru Sangat. He goes, because when they sit there and they hear the truth, they say, oh, don't talk about dying. Don't talk about, that's negative. You know, those kind of things. But Guruji is just such, when he's talking such, as we know, when we talked about historically, the Gursikhs in our history, when they were told about death and all that, they get happy. If we ask Kabir ji, Kabir mohe marne ka chao hai, maro to har keh dua. He goes, man, I'm really, really happy. Because when you talk about death to me, I'll get really happy. So our Chith goes, oh my gosh, marna, you know. But once you're really into it, they don't care about that. Now buddhi is this wisdom, this is the third layer, so this is where your wisdom is. And the source of all your knowledge and wisdom is here, in this thing called buddha. Described as an area where enlightenment actually happens. So buddhi, parkash, utte hunda, buddhi vich. When we talk about parkash ho gaya, it happens in hirda. Hirda is a part of the buddhi. Buddhi is part of the hirda. When we talk about hirda, something deep inside of our, there's where the light comes on and we meet God. It's actually at this level. The deepest part of the mind to get to, and is referred to as hirda, hriday, antara. So just thing we should remember, is buddhi, I think it's in the Shabds anyway. But sa buddh dije jit visare nahi, sa mat dije jit todate aayi. When we talk about we want to remember God 24 hours a day, that's what Guruji is saying. He's saying we got something going on 24 hours a day. Everyone has. There's something that you want, and it's 24 hours a day. It's going. Guruji is saying that's messed up. He said what you need to do is change that. So it says, I want to meet God. That should be going on for 24 hours a day. And that's at this wisdom, that's at this buddhi level. It's at this wisdom level. That's where it is. So Guruji said, he's saying, change mine because it's bad. Change it so that it says, I want to meet God all the time. Buddhi baji upje chao, sahas syana pavena tao. So the desire for worldly drama arises in the intellect. When we talk about this thing, you know, we're not interested in the spiritual side. We want to do some worldly things, right? That's all starting. It's all kicking off there. But even with thousands of clever mental tricks, the heat of the fear of God does not come into play. So fear is an important factor that we'll cover as well. Sai mat sai buddh syana jit nimakhana prabh visrave. The best, if we talk about wisdom, whose wisdom is the best then? Is the wisdom the best if someone says, I'm so wise because I could tell you how to build a house or earn £1 million? Guru says the best, that alone is intelligence, that alone is wisdom and cleverness, which inspires one to never forget God even for an instance. That's what wisdom we want. Jinke hirday nahi har swami te bigad roop birakti jo ne gora bo batan jane o har dargah hai prashti. So those who do not have the name of their Lord and Master within their hearts are the most wretched, deformed lepers. This is from Bani. Like the person who has no Guru, they may know many things, but they are cursed in the court of the Lord. So here it's called, translated as heart. So even if we say, you know, when we say it's deep in my, you know, heart or whatever, it's the same thing. It's the buddhi. It's a deep level when we talk about there. And then this is the worst part, the home, when we talked about real stubbornness, and this is the thing that's separating us from God. Now Guruji's described this as a brick wall. He's saying you have to knock this brick wall down, and that's where God is, when the brick wall's gone out of the way. But the brick wall's really, really hard to knock down, and only Guruji can do it through Shabd. Now, that's the real driving machine that says, I exist. That's the thing that's making you get rebirth. Now, one of the things that we don't think about in our lives is, you're born. You ever thought about why you were born? Now, we're born because we've got Homer. If that me thing wasn't there, we wouldn't be born. We'd be merged back. So this is driving our rebirth. It must be killed using the rest of the mind. So remember, the other three things, we have to retune those three. That's your mind, that's the thoughts and all those kind of things. Your feelings and your memories and your wisdom, you have to reprogram those to kill this. That's the only way to kill it. And those have to be reprogrammed with Shabd, with the Guru's word. When you reprogram those, you've got potential of killing this. You can't kill this by just some lucky streak or something like that. It won't die. And it will keep you being reborn. So, it must be killed using the rest of mind, can only be subdued with the shabad of the Guru. So, this was about the other lectures, but this, what we covered in stubborn-mindedness last week, that's very related to this area. And this is what Guruji says about home. They man re home shod guman, har gur sarvar sev tu pave darga man. So, O mind, renounce your egotistical pride and serve the Lord, the Guru, the sacred pool, and you shall be honoured in the court. So he said, the Guru is very clear in Bani, saying you have to destroy it, renounce it. Man mere home mail parnal, har nirmal sada somana shabad savaranhal. Now here Guruji is very clear, but mind, you're filled with filth of egotism. So this is when we talked about, Guruji talks about the mind as a full thing as well. He's saying the mind, you're full of ego. The Immaculate Lord is eternally beautiful. We are adorned with the word of the Shabd. So, way to destroy it, Guruji is telling us the word of the Shabd. A Gurmukh, so a spiritual person, a Sikh, whatever you want to call him, that person has sorted their mind out by destroying this thing. Now, just so that everyone understands this was an example. So, here's something. Once upon a time, a person heard a song. The more they listened, the more they enjoyed it. They remembered the title and the artist just so that they could go and buy it. They went and bought it from HMV and listened to it when getting ready for work in the car. So here's a typical kind of thing that might happen. So someone's, there's a song, like it, go and buy it, keep listening to it. And it's kind of standard thing. But what happens really? So here's Michael Jackson. That's before he died, that was that. So man interacted with the ears and concentrated. When we talked about man, first thing he did, he heard a song, right? So the mind got the ears, said, oh, listen to that, and it got those things engaged. Then the Chith said, it got engaged with it, so that switched on. He said, oh, that's good, isn't it? I like that. And it remembered the artist in the song, so it used the memory part of itself. It used the memory part to say, oh right, remember this artist. Then the wisdom justified that this is a very good thing and it should be done regularly. So wisdom was relatively corrupt, we can say, and says, right, that's a good thing, let's go and get that song, and keep that's an excellent idea. And then the Homer kept thinking it was bad, and it made it an important part of his life, so that was the bad album. But the Homer made it part of itself. Now, just the second one, once upon a time, a person was about to go to sleep, so we might be able to relate to this one. They needed to wake up early to do Amrit Billah and Nitnem, but a television program caught their attention. So they watched 5 minutes, then 10, then 20, then an hour, and they went to sleep late and woke up late, and they bombed through their Nitnem because they didn't have enough time. We all know about that, don't we? So, what really happens in that scenario? If you don't understand it, break it down. So the mind interacted with the ears, eyes and ears, and concentrated. So when those two things, it put surti into it, and it reassured that it would only be for 5 minutes. And then when it was in the morning, it steamed through. It says, quickly, let's get through this. And it does the nitrim in about 10 minutes, right? So then the Chith was engaged with the program, so it switched on. So this is interesting. So it switches on. And because Nitrim was boring anyway, it said, forget about the morning. That's the Chith doing that. It said, don't worry about that. And it was obviously in an off state for the Nitrim. So it switched on for the program, but when it's time to bomb through the Nitrim, it switches off. It says, that's not that important. So you've got to understand that. That's what happens. Then the Buddhi, which is the wisdom, that justified it. It says, this is a very good and important program. It goes, fast Nitrim doesn't matter, still do my Nitrim. Now that's a Buddhi, that's our wisdom, saying it's okay. Doesn't matter if I do it fast. And then the Hom, which is your ego, still thought it was capable of waking early, and I'm still a good person. So it still justifies itself. It still says, doesn't matter, Nitrim, if I do it in short time and it's not good, and I don't wake up and I don't do Amrit Billah and all those kind of things, I'm still a good person, I'm still a Sikh, I'm still a whatever I am. And that's the Home that's doing that. Now, before we just break up for a little bit of thinking, this is what we should, Bhai Gurdas Ji, as I've always said, Bhai Gurdas Ji is if you want to try and understand what Guruji is really saying, sometimes it's hard to go through 20 shavs to bring them together and say, right, I understood that. Bhai Gurdas Ji did all that work for us. So, Bhai Gurdas Ji says, Jaiso man tave par tan tan dukhan lo, Sri Guru Sharan Sadh Sang Lona Avi. Just as the mind runs after another woman, another person's woman, or another person's wealth, or it quickly starts criticizing everyone, really quickly, it does not come to the refuge of the true Guru and the assembly of the noble Sadhsang. It doesn't. When it's time to do Sadhsang, it's not that sharp to do that, but it's really sharp to say, oh, that other person's wife's very attractive, or husband, whichever it is, or the other, look at how much wealth they got. That's amazing. I've got to try and find a way of getting wealth like that. Or when it's time to criticize someone else, it's fast to do that. When it's time to do the Guru Sangat, it's oh yeah, I missed it this week, doesn't matter. Jaiso man lage parateen heen deenata mein sadh sang satguru seva na lagavi. Just as the mind remains involved in inferior, disrespectful service of others, it does not do similar service of the true Guru and the sadh sangat again. So it's quick to serve everyone else. And when we're talking about service, if we sit there and give anything attention, we're serving it. Think of it like that. So if we'll quickly serve a television program, even though it's relevant, it's not going to be of much help to you when we go from here. We're quick to serve like a bad sangat, a bad company, and sit there and listen to what they've got to say. We're quick to do those. And when it's time to come to satsang, then it's like, oh, but that doesn't matter that much. Jaiso man kirt birt mein magan hoye, satsang kirtan mein na theravi. Now, when we do our worldly affairs and we do our work, we give plenty of attention to that. There's not many people you know who wake up late for work, you know? You wake up late for work regularly, you're not in a job. But when it's time to do Kirtan and Seva or wake up on time for the Guru, that doesn't matter that much. That's what the mind does. But to do a worldly thing, it matters a lot. So what's Bhai Gurdas saying? Kukar jeon chonch kaad chaki chaat ve ko jaye, jage meethi lage dekhe tahi pashe tavi. In Gurbani, Guruji gives the example of a dog. He goes, you put a dog on a throne, he goes, it'll run off the throne, and in a chakki is where you grind atta, where we make flour. He goes, just goes and starts licking that. He doesn't understand what the throne is. What Guruji is saying is, we don't understand that Guruji's made us into royalty by giving us Sikhi, by giving us Gurbani, by giving us Naam, but we run after some little basic thing in our lives, which is of very little relevance, and just like the dog, you try to make it into a king, it just says, yeah, whatever, it just starts licking the millstone. Right? So what Bhai Gurdas is saying, we run after those things that we look at and say we respect that, and Bhai Gurdas is saying, oh, generally, oh, Mayaya. Generally, the thing you're running after is this temporary thing that isn't going to give you anything. It's going to give you some temporary thing while you're here. It's going to be no use when you go to the next world. So, when we talk about this, I just want everyone to understand before we start thinking about examples yourselves, what is the condition of the man, chith, the buddha and home when you do these things? When you justify not being disciplined in your Sikhi. When we say, all right, it doesn't matter if I wake up late, it doesn't matter if I go and chat to girls or boys or whatever, on internet or whatever, chasing after the opposite sex, attend a Gurdwara, but don't listen to Gurbani or Kirtan with attention, so, that doesn't matter, I still went to the Gurdwara. Give your career and social circles more attention than what God deserves in your life. So we give our careers and all that 100%, but God deserves some of our time. Guruji is saying God deserves all of your time when we go into Bani properly, but He deserves some of our time, but we don't give it. And when we drink alcohol, drugs, cut hair, eat meat, and say it doesn't matter. So which part of the mind is messed up? So I want you to break up, just pick 2 or 3 of these because they'll take too long. If you could go into 4s or 5s. So we know about man, which is your, the thoughts and it's controlling the body. We know about Chith, which is your feelings and your memories. We know about buddhi, that's your wisdom, the wisdom layer, which is driving everything, saying, yeah, right, wrong, yeah, I'll let you do that, no, don't do that. That's that wisdom layer. And then you've got this Homer thing that says it believes it's existing and it is actually challenging God, effectively. So there are your four things. Just pick 2 or 3 of these and just go through them and see which bits do you think are off track. ठीक है? 4-5